So Carson Price for Thursday, June 12th, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center. And Matt Sakaris alongside Blake Price, four-time winner Mike Rogers, and hitting switches and conducting things. Different show as you are at the well, we have a software that requires clouds, and those clouds are down right now. So we're doing our utmost to do a program here. And we'll just get something out, given that there is no end to the trouble with the clouds in sight.
I don't know if people can hear the audio troubles that we can hear in our ears or not, but we're going to try to figure this out as we go along here, and hopefully we can eke out a show.
Anyways, we'll start with our Toyota Pacific Dealers poll question, asking you today, is this finally, will the Canucks finally announce a practice facility this summer? You can vote yes, you can vote no, do so, or you can vote believe it when I see it. Do so at the Sakaris and Price X and YouTube channels if they're operational at the moment.
Yes.
We think so. So this is coming from Councillor Mike Klassen, who was on the Halford and Bruff show yesterday and said that there are conversations going where they're at this point is unclear, but there is a strong expression of interest, and that is for the Vancouver Canucks talking with the PNE and the City of Vancouver about also using the Agrodome as a practice facility. I say also because, of course, the PWHL, new Vancouver expansion franchise, will be using that facility as a practice grounds as they begin play later this year. Klassen went on, said it, quote, makes sense for me, but we sort of have to see whether it pencils out for the Canucks organization to be a part of that as well. But I could just see it. Again, it takes money to invest. I think that's the key phrase here. Blake Klassen said it's a little long in the tooth, but if you come in with future focus organizations like those ones and make those investments into it, you have it really sparkling and being a great place to accomplish all that you need and also turn around a public benefit at the same time.
Matt, it's a no-brainer for me. I said this from the start here, in that, we know that the Vancouver Canucks don't like to outlay a lot of money.
Well, that's been the problem with previous facilities and previous negotiations. The Canucks just want to slap their logo on and say we've done our part, and the other side is saying, well, no,
and land availability,
capital investment, some degree of money to make this thing happen.
And land availability is an issue. It is very cost prohibitive. So the way for everybody to have their cake and eat it too here is by working with the city. And again, exactly the framework of the land transfer, and whether it's a lease or whatever, you make it so it's almost like it's free land. I don't know if you actually have to hand title to the Vancouver Canucks or not, but they can build for free on pretty prime land in Vancouver, whatever they want. So just the construction cost is up to them. The land is of no cost. The give back is that the rinks, and that's where, as much as I would love to preserve the architecture of the Agrodome, because it's kind of a cool 70s retro building, maybe the best case scenario is actually just a full-on rebuild, add a second rink there, and you've got two rinks there to add into the minor hockey mix, giving back to the community, and that's where the philanthropy comes in. And maybe even there's a tax write-off there for the Aquilini Group to take advantage of as well. And you get to start from ground zero in terms of construction. You get exactly what you want. You get what Gary Bettman said that any good franchise needs, and that is a first-class practice facility. When he was talking about the state tax issue and how teams offset it, you get a first-class practice facility, not some random add-on to a UBC rink that already exists. So you start from ground zero. You get extra money brought in by the PWHL team, who will kick in their share, maybe not fair share because they're not exactly the booming business that an NHL team is, but you get some money from the PWHL team that will help bring in the tide and float all boats as well. To me, it is by far the best case scenario. And yet, do they sometimes have to drive from Kerrisdale, if they live in Kerrisdale through the city. Yep, but it's not bad for the downtown livers. It's not bad for the North Shore livers either. I think it ticks a lot of boxes.
Of course, the Canucks had been touring around Rosemary Brown in South Burnaby, Britannia, and East Vancouver. They spend their practices at UBC when Rogers Arena is not available to them, and the only franchise that either is without a practice facility or without plans to build one. It's almost like they've been shamed into this. They've gone kicking and screaming. Yeah. I mean, Jim Rutherford had been talking about practice facility since he got here, and that was some years ago. So, and you may remember Rutherford's comments about, don't ask me about a practice facility, the jokes that he was making at those season-ending press conferences where, one, he acknowledged, it was a bigger issue than he thought, and there was no timeline, no fixed timeline, at least, that he could refer to, other than the fact that he said, we're going to continue to looking, and it's going to take some investment, and eventually it's going to get done. And you even made the joke about free agents being attracted to Vancouver because of where we practice, which is a pretty good poke in the own eyes. So at least Rutherford's been able to keep a sense of humor about all this. You have to think he's pretty frustrated in the back, having come from NHL organizations that have practice facilities. So we will see where this goes with the Canucks, but I voted believe it when I see it, because it's just been such a long-standing albatross for this franchise that yes was a little too confident.
Yeah, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they see the logic of it, but the owner is the owner, and he has to come out as the emphatic winner in any deal that he partakes in, it appears. And so for that, I can understand why you do vote for believe it when I see it. The other thing to mention, if they didn't even add another rink and they just renovated the Agrodome as we know it, there is the Pacific Coliseum ice, which will get a refurbishment of some sort, because that's where the games will be held for PWA. So in the event that one team or the other is using the Agrodome ice, you have a 100-foot walk to another street ice. So it works.
Yep. And the city is clearly looking to revitalize that property at the PNE, redoing the amphitheater there on site. Of course, all sorts of ideas, plans, including a non-binding memorandum of understanding with Tsleil-Waututh Nation with regards to Hastings Racecourse, Hastings Park. So
maybe the Whitecaps still
exactly could be a soccer-specific stadium there, and some must remember the temporary Empire Stadium that was built there.
And when was the last time was going through the PNE was like front and center with anything at all? Like, it's been a decade. Playland exists, but that's a pretty niche audience.
I mean, it's really busy when school lets out for Playland.
Really busy might be overstated.
It's
a destination, But that's still, Playland though is what, 35% of the footprint? Like it's
absolutely. It's an absolutely huge property if you haven't walked it. Anyways, we'll see where this goes, but it does seem like a little traction is being gained here by Canucks Sports Entertainment and a long-awaited practice facility. They could drive their BZ4X to the practice facility.
We could. How many BZ4Xs would fit on the PNE grounds?
Quite a few.
I think so. And you know what? You get most of the way there. The HOV lane ends at Willingdon. Does it end? Yeah, Willingdon. But you get most of the way there from that direction in the HOV lane. That's the good news. Because fully electric vehicle, all the pumps and do in style and with performance. And right now you get the LE all-wheel drive edition, 0.99% financing for 36 months. Go to shoptoyota.ca. Better yet, go to your Pacific Toyota dealer. Take them for a test drive.
Our top story today brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, and Foolish Winery. Pierre LeBrun says all signs point to the Vancouver Canucks keeping Elias Pettersson. LeBrun writes that they are encouraged by his off-season approach. Also have noted the thinness of the UFA center market and that both those factors have influenced the decision. Of course, Darren Dreger told us on Monday that the Canucks were gauging the market one last time on Elias Pettersson prior to his no-move clause kicking in on July 1st.
I vote believe it when I see it. Oh, we're not voting on that. Same thing
Well,
holds,
look,
though.
I mean, yeah, to a degree, because
There's no deadline here.
well, right, and like someone at the draft may bowl you over with
Right.
an offer, and then all of a sudden you're considering an Elias Pettersson trade again. But I think for me, the important part of this report, the news here, is they are encouraged by his offseason approach. Because to listen to Patrick Alvin and others talk about the Canucks offseason approach at large and Elias Pettersson's offseason approach in particular hasn't been near good enough, right? They haven't been willing to put the work in the summer to be everything they can be as hockey players. And we all know what that manifested in this past offseason. So they wanted him to stay here and work out under their auspices in Vancouver. He stayed a little longer, I suspect, than he normally would have on his way out of town. He did come back to Vancouver. Footnoted a little bit of a conference there with Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes, the captain, of course, the new head coach, Thatcher Demko. So to me, that is a good signal here on Elias Pettersson. There's still a lot of summer to go here, right? There's still more than 2 months before Elias Pettersson is going to be back in Vancouver and getting involved in the informal skates prior to training camp. So a long way to go.
But he might
early returns.
He might drop in again. We didn't know about this most recent drop in. It's a long way to, be commuting per se, but there might be a chunk where he decides to come back and get the tutelage of somebody here that he likes, or treatment that he likes. So the most important thing is that he continues to work in, and I would still say there's a way better than 50% chance that he's a Vancouver Canuck in training camp. And to that end, you cheer on whatever he's doing that's making positive traction to be a positive player for next season, because we didn't see much of that last year.
Yeah, and the other thing, of course, that we're going to look for when we do lay eyes on Elias Pettersson, whenever that may be, particularly when we see him out on the ice, and Cam Robinson mentioned this a couple of weeks back, is the skating stride and being stronger on your feet, and whether the skating stride was contributing to any kind of the knee tendonitis that Elias had noted at the end of not this past season, but the previous one. And of course, what he noted when he showed up to training camp this past season, that the knee tendonitis prevented him from doing things. So will that have been overhauled? Will there be slight changes there? But do we have a more robust Elias Pettersson who's a little more prepared to compete in the small areas where just pure strength and balance are going to matter? We shall see.
Yeah. I hope that there's an acknowledgement that there might be something bigger at play here that is affecting him, and has affected him now for, I guess, 12 months or just over.
Like 15 months, 16 months.
You and I do that. We're not professional athletes, and we're like, hey, I wonder why that's been hurting for 15 months. Should I dig deeper into that? He's got everything at his disposal. You hope he takes advantage of it.
Never had a calf issue before, but last night after golf, I'm like, what is going on there? And things hurt that never used to hurt. It's
want to pick you up?
Really sucks.
I got some weekend plans for you. Got some weekend plans for you. Cheer by the pier. I know you hate coming over. I know you hate.
I do not hate coming over. I do not hate coming over. No. I hate coming over when it's rush hour. But any other time, I'm up for heading to the North Shore, especially if there's a good party.
I zoom over all the time. It's just put on by the Family Services of the North Shore. Proceeds from the Civic directed to their child and youth mental health programs. Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Yellow Dog Spirits, and several other craft beverage companies will be sampling for the evening. This is June 14th, so that is Saturday. Go check it out. The Cheer by the Pier event at the Bob Malon's.
Perhaps you should give us more reasons to cross over. Like have a barbecue or something.
A barbecue.
Have a rager at Blake's house.
I'll tell you when the kids are having one.
I head over all the time to go play Northland. So
you want to go to a grade 11 party? Is that what you're suggesting?
No.
No. That'll be the next rager.
Occasionally go over to the Pemby for an NFL Sunday and see all our friends. See all our friends there. Occasionally go over to play golf at Northlands. occasionally go over to just, hit up the beach. Usually do that at some point in the summer, explore a new beach somewhere. West Van, North Van.
You love the
Great
beach.
time. Yep. Pierre LeBrun also reporting the Vancouver Canucks are in on Marco Rossi, the Minnesota centerman that everyone anticipates will be traded by the draft. And he says they're more in on Rossi than some of the other clubs that are hunting top two centers. And he name-checked the Calgary Flames and Montreal Canadiens there. He mentioned that Calgary may prefer a bigger center iceman, so kind of like Bill Guerin in Minnesota. And, I hate to give you credit, but let me throw a bone here.
Yep.
Is it possible that the market on Rossi is smaller than we might have first thought, despite the limited number of sellers, despite the limited number of center icemen available, and all these teams looking for top two centers? Is his size so off-putting to so many GMs that you actually be able to get Marco Rossi in a reasonable trade and not have to overpay? Given that a market with so few sellers, you would anticipate they're going to be able to rate prices and someone's going to overpay.
If he was 6 feet tall, it would be a feeding frenzy. And what we have learned is everybody lies. So even the 5'9" guy is probably lying. Like the team is even. Like he might be.
You think he's 5'8"?
Yeah. So I think it does. I think it scares away 2/3 of the competition, even in today's world.
He's 5'9" measured. That's measured. That's true.
We don't know that.
No, we don't know that.
So yeah, I that's been my hunch from the beginning, and just gauging sort of the temperature out there, and we'll see if again, is he the perfect player for the Vancouver Canucks? In a lot of ways, no. In that you might eventually run into that issue yourself, that question of, is this our guy to win us games in the playoffs? This team is so low on offense and scoring ability on the forward line. You know he can do it in the regular season at the very least. As long as it doesn't cost you sun, moon, and stars, if it's only moon and stars, I think the Canucks would probably be best served to go and explore further.
LeBrun further reports the New York Islanders and new general manager Mathieu Darche have decided they're going to keep Bo Horvat and Matthew Barzal, Lower Mainlander Matthew Barzal. The thinking there being that they still have the makings of a playoff team, if not a contender, so it's not going to be a rebuild, at least not now, for Mathieu Darche. That's what he is messaging out there. The Pittsburgh Penguins, LeBrun calls the only seller, although there's an asterisk there too, because they're not selling their legacy guys. At least not yet.
Not yet. I know your dream of Crosby lives on.
I do. I just can't see a competitor of that order being okay with a decade of non-competitiveness to finish up his career. I would have to think at some point Sydney is going to want to chase the Stanley Cup again, and I don't believe that's happening in Pittsburgh. We shall see. But yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh and the non-Crosby, Malkin, Letang assets, like there is to say that that's just incredible. Think of there's 32 franchises out there, Blake, and seemingly none of them are in their competitive cycle or are willing to acknowledge a competitive cycle of wanting to go through some degree of rebuild. It is even more outlandish when you consider that Gavin McKenna is the prize at the end of the rainbow next year for the team that wins the first overall pick in the NHL draft lottery. And look, it's a 25% chance of landing the first overall pick. So yeah, the odds are not in your favor. And I think we have done a good enough job of stemming off the tanking after the McDavid Eichel draft in Edmonton and Buffalo. That was a big thing for Gary Bettman. He didn't want teams tanking. They put in these very restrictive draft lottery rules where it makes it very difficult to land the first overall pick, even as the worst team in the league. And I think this is the fruit that is coming from some of that. What I will say, and tell me if you hear my mouth on this one, okay, very few, if any, sellers. all these teams looking to buy, fat with cap space. Big summer for good old-fashioned hockey trades.
Yeah, I think there's a very real possibility of that. I mean, cap space is the biggest way to get that happening, and we know that that's available. Does anybody on Pittsburgh float your boat? Brian Rust, Rickard Rakell?
Well, I think Raquel could still
Tommy
help
Novak?
some teams. I think Raquel could still help some teams.
Tommy Novak's stats are better than you think.
Well, Novak was tracking to be a pretty good player. What are his stats?
So in the last 3 seasons, 22-23 with Nashville, only 51 games, 43 points, 17 goals in just 51 games. The year after that with Nashville, 45 points in 71 games. So it's down points per game, but that's still close to second line production. And then last year, between the two teams, well, just the 2 games with Pittsburgh after the deadline, 52 games for Nashville, 22 points. So he dipped last year, but his 2 previous years were quite good.
And that's 28 with 2 years left on the books at 3.5.
Yeah, like it's
can play the middle. Yeah, that's. Put it this way: in this market, you got to explore that. And Raquel as well. I mean, he's 32 now. He's got a modified no trade. It's an 8-team list. He's making $5 million per for the next 3 years. 6'1", 185, and a right shot. So that's going to be attractive on some levels. And coming off a very fine season, 35 goals, 70 points. So you'll take that. So yeah, Raquel, Novak, even Rust, if you will. Decent players there.
One of the best little roster nuances. Of course, the Pittsburgh Penguins traded Drew O'Connor to the Vancouver Canucks, leaving them with a forward named Drew O'Connor. They had Drew O'Connor and Dewar Connor.
O'Connor Dewar. You're awfully close. I'm not accustomed to being this close. So when did you get so tall, too? Oh, he's on the pillow. That's what I forgot. Yes.
Dewar, Connor.
Rick Dollywall says the Canucks number on Pius Suter begins with a 3, not a 4. So I'm left to wonder 2 things. Either you don't value Pius Suter all that much at all, or 2, you were grossly out of touch with the market. I don't think it's the latter. I think it's the film. I don't know if it's the skating. I don't know if it's the size. I don't know what would be the case there, but we saw him be a very valuable piece for the Vancouver Canucks, a primary penalty killer on a PK unit that surged to 3rd overall in the league from the depths near the bottom of the league, at the bottom of the league a few years ago.
It's the term, though,
the
right?
goals.
Like they would probably be fine with the 3-something cap hit, but I'm sure Pius Suter wants that wrapped up into a 4-year deal.
Oh, I don't think Pius Suter is signing for anything less than $4.5 million per. In this market,
I wouldn't think so.
In this market, for a guy who can play center, coming off 25 goals and a primary penalty killer.
But what's the report that he's being offered that?
No, the Dollywell says the Canucks number on him, the offer begins with a 3.
Right. Yeah,
that's not getting it done. They got to know that's not getting it done. Pius Suter would have to love Vancouver so much and be so willing to do a hometown discount for the number to start with a 3.
Well, and again, if you offered him way more term,
well, I think you'd have to offer him like 7 years, and even then, I think he might look at it and say to himself, but
you can't
I cut my name off.
Pius Suter skating already where it is. I don't want to be paying Pius Suter when he's 34.
Well, no. So, I mean, that doesn't make sense either. Is my point. The AFP Analytics prediction on Pius Suter's contract is 4 by 4.9. Like I think there's a fair chance he gets 5 on the open marketplace.
Yep. In today's world, yeah.
With all these teams with cap space, with all these teams looking for need, with the versatility of being able to play center ice, score goals, and kill penalties.
Although, Matt, his points per game, his goals per game have always been good. And for whatever reason, the NHL has not seemed to be
Well, the skating's
keen on
not great.
Suter.
The skating's not great. It's not like he's a big rough and tumble character. Now, be careful, because in the flat cap, teams were just so capped out, they didn't have money, and so they started cutting back on bottom six forwards and third line centers. Like, there were some really good deals there for third line centers, Blake, for a couple of years because of the flat cap that I don't think are going to be there anymore now that GMs have cap space in their pocket. Like, I think there was a 3 or 4 year period where you looked at it and went, I don't need to spend on third line center because those guys are going to be available at a reasonable price. So I don't need to lock up my own guy for big money or be out on the market giving big money to somebody who's going to slot as my third line center. But I think those days are over.
Lasting till August 11th was next level.
Yeah, but that was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And he's played pretty well since. So I think he'll have enhanced his.
And I don't think I remembered this.
Suiters.
Do you remember what he made under the Wings? Do you remember what Steve Yzerman gave him before that? The deal he was coming off of with the Wings.
Was it $1 million?
3.25.
Was it? Oh, wow. And he made what, 1.6 with the Canucks?
He made 1.6 with the Canucks.
Yeah.
So he got shaved in half. He got a 2-year deal out of Stevie Y at 3.25.
Yeah. Was that Yzerman or was that pre-Yzerman?
Sorry, it was it was Yzerman.
It was Yzerman, yeah.
And it was signed on July 28th, though. Like, again, he's waiting deep into the summer to get that.
Stanley Cup Final, Game 4 tonight in Florida. The Panthers leading the best-of-7 series 2-1. I want to highlight this tweet from Willis. Mike, are we able to put tweets up?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay. Cloud. Jonathan Willis out of Edmonton. With Connor McDavid on the ice at 5-on-5 in the final, the Oilers have outshot the Panthers 44-27. Could be some score effects on that in Game 3 because, as we know, the Oilers were way behind.
Did he write it out on a piece of paper?
They've been outscored 4-2 with McDavid on the ice at even strength. As well as notes, not sustainable. Either the Panthers will defend McDavid better and reduce the tilt on the ice, or he's going to light them up. Almost all of the split comes in his head-to-head minutes against Seth Jones. And my God, is he recasting his career in all of our eyes, right? Everyone at one point thought he was the most overpaid guy in the league. You know, what a horrible contract. Florida went out, acquired him, and just get him around winning, getting him in big stakes games. Anyways, the head-to-head minutes with Seth Jones are where the struggle is happening. Florida's outscored Edmonton 3-0 in those minutes, and they've been outshot 22-10, but they're holding the event. The bottom line here is that I do believe the crux of this tweet is true, because I do believe that Connor McDavid is too good a player to keep at bay, especially when the shots on goal and the scoring chances are in his favor at even strength. So, been talking about it since Game 1. As a neutral, as a hockey fan, this is a delicious matchup. The first 2 games were extraordinary. Just some of the best games and entertainment I think the NHL has offered in a number of years. Game 3 devolved both in its competitiveness and its aesthetic in the third period, but I still have hopes for this series, and I still have hopes for this series being one that we talk about years from now. All of that requires is an Edmonton Oilers win tonight in Game 4.
He tends to make noise before he erases a dry spell, and those are few and far between.
And you know, like statistically, that'd be it, right? Like he is going to make noise before he snaps out. Like watching the baseball game last night, you know, guys who are consistently barreling the ball, hard contact. If they're in a slump, they're going to break out of their slump. That hard contact is going to come to roost at some point. I think the same can be said for Connor McDavid and what he has been able to do at 5-on-5 versus Florida without the results just yet.
And even in the Four Nations face-off, when he wasn't, I don't think, at his productive self necessarily, we saw him. I think he skated pretty well, but that's a short tournament. That was 3 games, you know, as opposed to this where you get repetitive kicks at the can against the same team.
do, but the worry there is it is still a relatively small sample size.
No, for
right?
sure.
So, yeah, I mean, is it possible that Florida could hold Connor McDavid completely at bay for the next 2 games and win the series in 5 games? Yeah, it is possible.
And given what happened last year,
I'd put my money on McDavid at Edmonton winning one of those games if Connor is playing that well.
yeah,
At the very least, if not 2, but it is conceivable. And then lastly, Blake, your boy Sam Bennett. So this tweet from James Myrtle. He has more goals in these playoffs than he's had in 5 of his 11 NHL regular seasons. Third. We talked yesterday with Frank Verotto about how much do you pay for intangibles, and because Sam Bennett is being it's quite a case study on all of this. You're looking at a 40-point NHL regular season player who is amongst the most valuable players in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is just mind-boggling. How many goals does he have in the playoffs?
He's got 14 in this.
14.
Yeah, 39 in his career. And that's the thing is that, he's been pretty good in playoffs forever. Like going back to, of course, the 18-year-old Sam Bennett with 3 goals as an 18-year-old in 11 games for the Flames. But his last playoff with the Flames, 5 goals, 3 assists in games. He was very good.
Yeah.
And as a Panther, he's been pretty remarkable over the course of the past 3 seasons as well, with a much better scoring pace than what he's had in any of the regular seasons. So again, analytics doesn't like to acknowledge clutch time, but he seems to have it. And you'd think that especially the old school GMs will fall over themselves.
He's got a 16-goal season there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So if he were to score 3 more goals in this final, then he'd have more goals in these playoffs than more than half the regular seasons.
He'll have, I mean, if you could get 4, there will only be 3 seasons where he'll be better.
It's insane.
Because he's got an 18-goal season as well. So he's
insane.
very close to 2 more seasons.
Let's get to today's menu. It is brought to you by Greta. Greta, a fantastic spot to catch all the games home and away, and an even better spot if you're planning a team building or summer social event. Great street food and arcade that your guests will have so much fun with. More info, book your room, go to gretabar.com, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. The good news about today and this technical matter we're dealing with is that we were able to get some guests interviewed and recorded for this program. So Jeff Marek is going to join us next. Jeevan Badwal of Vancouver Whitecaps FC, the midfielder from Surrey who scored his first MLS goal Sunday as the Caps beat the Seattle Sounders.
A charming interview. Just great.
Just honestly pulling for this kid now. Local kid, done well. You can tell how much it meant to him. So good for him and good for the Whitecaps. They're in Columbus on Saturday. And then World Series MVP Pat Borders from the 1992 Toronto Blue Jays. He and his old battery mate, Todd Stottlemyre, are going to be at Nat Bailey Stadium on Saturday for Blue Jays Day at the park. That's a 1 p.m. first pitch. They'll be meeting fans, signing autographs, taking photos, all that. Join Pat from Florida, where he lives.
He had some technical issues because his phone overheated several times in the Florida heat.
That's what happens in Florida.
So this is a best of the Pat Borders interview, basically, is what we're bringing you.
So all of that is coming up on today's program. Time now for our Bet365 Bets of the Day. This segment proudly brought to you by Bet365. You know what you picked yesterday?
No.
I will go then.
U.S. Open. That's what we did. We did U.S. Open picks.
Yes. The lines look great in the second half in their opener against the Elks, but 3.5-point favorites in Winnipeg. That's a little much for me, especially given we haven't seen the Winnipeg team play yet. They were off in week 1. So I'm taking the Bombers and the points. I know Winnipeg struggled at the beginning of last year. I would not be surprised if they played the game again, having been to all these great cups. So I understand where the line is coming from. But we know the trouble that BC has had against the Bombers. So give me Winnipeg plus 3.5.
And you know that Leon Draisaitl, in the wake of playoff losses for the Oilers averages 1.5 points.
Yeah, he's not taking it anymore. He's pissy, Leon.
So 2 points for Leon.
Yep.
Plus 128 here.
Only 128. Those guys are so good, though, Blake, that it's such low value on multi-point efforts for them. And yet you keep going back there.
Yeah, the numbers tell me to. Just follow the numbers.
What do you mean the numbers tell you?
He gets the 2 points.
Okay. If you want to get in on the action for the Stanley Cup Playoffs at Bet365, they got you. I just sure hope I'm back in that station tomorrow. Game props, player props, totals, money line.
Heisman.
Exactly. I feel like I'm on your side of the divide. Conn Smythe winner, whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs must be 19 or older. Mike is handed
to be clear, we cannot roll out the interviews here on Twitter, so they're going to be posted exclusively on YouTube. And those of you on our YouTube live stream right now,
yes,
you'll have to leave the stream and then re-access the interviews individually. Apologies, folks. We hope one of the biggest companies on the planet can get their shit together.